What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm excited today because we get to start this project bad boy right here. This 70 Chevelle, guys, is gonna get LS swap. We're gonna do tranny also. We're gonna pull out the suspension as well. As a matter of fact, we're gonna do all that stuff, upgrade the drivetrain and all that, fuel system, wiring, digital gauges, AC. Can't forget about the AC. But guys, hit the subscribe button. You guys got to hit the subscribe button right now for me. You guys hit that? Cool. All right, next thing, guys, I'm going to take you on this journey to show you guys what it really takes to do an LS swap. You guys will get the full details on what to expect or what not to do, or what you need to do to make this thing to work. Not to mention, I'm going to go over wiring as well, guys. I know that's a big one, so we're going to go over wiring as well on how to wire this thing properly. Not to mention how to get that transmission to work with the stock shifter. So we got that coming up as well. So this car right here, boys, it's got a big block in it right now. It's a pretty decent motor, don't get me wrong, but we want to go LS just for the reliability. Let's see, pop this hood. You guys can see that thing is a pretty hefty motor we got here, but it's got to come out. It's just freaking sucking up gas, boys, and it's, you know, stalls out here and there, you know, and all that between the climate and everything else like that. Not to mention these big boys run hot. We're gonna go ahead and do the full engine bay. We're gonna do the firewall, clean up the firewall, smooth that all down. If you guys are interested, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. So we're gonna do that. Get rid of the old AC stuff, pull the old condenser and everything else. Radiator, that's got to go. We got to upgrade the coolant system as well. But before we get started, obviously the first thing you're going to want to do is disconnect the battery, boys. Go ahead and disconnect the battery. Today we're going to focus on prep work. So we're going to start with just getting everything disconnected so we can pull this motor out. So first things first, disconnect your battery. I'm probably going to just disconnect it, all of it, because we're going to redo the entire battery system as well. First things first, we're actually going to go underneath the car and disconnect the exhaust, disconnect the drive shaft, and also the transmission. Start undoing the transmission cross member as well while you're underneath that. Not to mention, we're also gonna remove the gas tank, boys, because you got to upgrade the gas tank. When you guys do a fuel injection system, it's always a good to upgrade the gas tank to an EFI gas tank. Now, I've seen people run pumps, external pumps, right on the outside of the car, but the problem with that is that they overheat over time, boys. And if you have the pump in the gas tank, then you're less likely to overheat that pump when it's submerged in fuel. So we're going to upgrade an EFI gas tank, so keep that in consideration. You're going to need that. Now, what also try to do is kind of break down a little bit of the cost with these parts. So obviously you're going to do a DIY, right? You guys are performing all the work yourself, so there's going to be no cost in labor unless you're going to go either exhaust shop or the drive shaft shop, right? Because you're going to need those as well. But everything else parts wise, I will try to break down at the end of the probably at the end of the videos once we got everything installed. We'll go with the whole price breakdown and what everything is going to cost that we've done to the motor as far as the LS swap. Now, we won't really go into the suspension stuff because everybody will, you know, kind of upgrade the suspension differently, but at least we'll go down and what it actually takes from start to finish to get the car running, right? So also, even power steering, that's another big one. You're gonna have to redo the plumbing on the power steering. Obviously cooling, you're gonna have to redo that. There's a lot of little, believe it or not. Also, we'll cover the wiring on the engine bay, because a lot of times you got all these extra wires that are not going to be needed. So I'll go over all the wiring that you can eliminate from the engine bay, so that way it cleans this thing up. So without further ado, boy, let's go ahead and get this thing started. We'll throw it up on the lift. It's already on the lift, but we'll go ahead and get it up in the air and start pulling stuff off. All right, you guys, I went ahead and disconnected that lower radiator hose here. So that way we can let it drain here. That way this thing is draining while we're working. But while we're here, we might as well also disconnect the fuel pump. This is the fuel pump, mechanical fuel pump, guys. If you guys have a big block, small block, more than likely you'll have a mechanical fuel pump that comes in from the back. You got your feed line here and then up to the fuel rail. So we're gonna go ahead and disconnect this next. You might have a little fuel that comes out, so be wary of that. Just remember. All right, since we're still under here, we might as well disconnect everything we can in this same area, boys. So like right here, you have a ground, right? This ground right here goes back to the battery. We can disconnect that along with these tranny cooling lines. We're gonna redo all the tranny cooling lines. You guys can undo those. You're probably gonna want to undo these from both sides, believe it or not. It looks like they just kind of ran an external tranny cooler line. So we'll disconnect this bracket, be done with that. We're gonna go ahead and actually remove the motor mount bolts, and it's not that big of a deal. It won't go anywhere. We're just gonna go ahead and remove both motor mount bolts. You'll have a nut on the back side. You're gonna need at least 2 wrenches, boys. So every car is a little bit different. Like this is a 1/2 inch up front, and the back side's 11/16. The nut on the back side's 11/16. But I don't know what your guys' motor mounts will look like. So we're gonna undo these real quick and then keep moving forward.
Later that same evening.
Got that one out. That one was a little bit of a pain in the butt, guys, because the fuel pump's right there, so it was kind of a pain in the butt. So we had to get the wrenches out. We had to get the old swivel socket out and everything to get that out. Good idea is to probably put this bolt from the other side in if that pump was going to be there, but we shouldn't have that problem with the new motor. So another thing we want to talk about real quick is these headers, boys. These headers are going to have to come off, and they usually come off from the bottom. So there's really no way you're probably going to be able to pull the motor out with those on, and I would not advise it just because there's too much stuff in the way, guys. Everything gets caught up and everything else like that. You want to be able to pull this motor out as smooth as possible. So you're going to want to make sure you get those headers off. You're probably, like I said, you're probably gonna have to do it from the bottom side. Get those off. Transmission as well, boys. We're gonna have to undo the transmission linkage from the top of the shifter as well. We got to get that off. So before we do the headers, because we're gonna end up having to drop the car to get the headers out, because all the bolts looks like they're gonna be accessed from the top of the car. We're gonna go ahead and undo the power steering lines here. We're just gonna undo it from here. And then you got the one rubber hose back there we can undo real quick, and that way we can let this thing drain. What I think I'm gonna do is, while we're down here still, before we move up top to undo the headers, is we're probably gonna remove the gas tank just to get that off and be done with that. That way we got that stuff undone as well, boys. We're also going to cover the wiring for the fuel system. That way you guys know kind of how to make sure your sending unit's working, your gauge is working, because I see a lot of these cars that the gauge never works. You can bend these out of the way, boys. Go ahead and bend these scraps out of the way so we can drop that tank. Now, if you guys don't have, obviously, a lift at home, more likely you don't. When you're doing this on the floor, you can use a transmission jack or even an ATV jack. I'll show you the one I've used before in the past when I did these on the floor. I have one sitting right over there. Now, it looks like we have a ground up here. There's always going to be a ground up top up here, boys. that bolts to the top of the frame up there. We're just gonna go ahead and cut it for now, so that way it's out of the way, because we're running all new grounds, everything, new wires and all that, so that way it doesn't get in the way. And then you guys can see how well those bolts match up on the strap there, but we'll probably put new hardware anyways. See if we can lower this now. Now just be cautious, boys, because this has fuel in it, so it's always a challenge. That's gonna slosh around and you're gonna be fighting it. This is always a challenge, boys, because you got exhaust in the way, you got the frame in the way, so just take your time and work it out as best as possible without making a mess.
By sheer coincidence.
So this is the jack I was telling you guys about. This is just a little Harbor Freight ski jack. It's actually an ATV jack, believe it or not, but it works really good for fuel tanks, even a transmission, believe it or not. So get you one of these, boys, if you guys are working on the ground. All right, boys, so we got the headers pretty much unbolted for now. I think I'm missing one bolt on this back side, but I can't get to it because of this heater box. So we'll get it from the bottom when we get over there right now. But he does have like a, looks like the car had nitrous at one point. We're gonna disconnect that, disconnect these lines from the motor so that way nothing's holding us on. The throttle linkage, radiator hoses, any other hoses that you guys see, go ahead and disconnect them. That's gonna get in your way now. Now I will say this, guys, it don't matter how much we go through this process, we'll always forget something. Always. It's inevitable. I don't know why, but it happens. But while we're up here, we might as well get rid of this radiator. So we'll get rid of the radiator to give us more room to pull the engine out, because that radiator, we're gonna upgrade that as well. So we're gonna go ahead and pull that and keep moving.
One hour later!
Guys, I have never seen a header kit like that. That is so freaking crazy. I don't work on a lot of big blocks, but that is freaking nuts, dude. This is like a Jenga set for your headers. And honestly, if you don't have this kind of header for this block, I don't know how you get these on or off, dude, because I tried to pull it out in one piece. Not gonna happen, boys. Almost forgot about the speedo sensor, boys, for the trannies, so forget about that, you know. Well, boys, I think we're gonna stop the video here because this is kind of a long process, right? It's gonna be multiple episodes, multiple series. So you gotta subscribe, boys, you gotta subscribe. We'll let that finish draining. Another trick is, once we got that pretty close to being drained, at least at this point, we'll put like a rubber glove with the zip tie around the tail shaft to try to catch some of that fluid when we do pull it out, so we don't make a huge mess. But it's guys, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be a mess regardless, so be wary. But you guys got to stay tuned, because I'm going to try to answer as many questions as possible, guys. So after every video, if you guys got any questions, put them down in the comments below, and then we'll try to get to them at the end of every video after that, so you guys got to stay tuned for that. Well, with that being said, boys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell for notifications, and stay wrenching.